Hey, it's Deirdre Fay, and I wonder if you've ever had this experience. I certainly have. Ever, ever want to go up a flight of steps and aren't sure that your leg can take it, that it can actually help you get there? Or maybe you pause and you stop and you wonder, will will I be able to do this? Maybe we have to teach your mind how to tell your body how to do something that's been so utterly normal and automatic up to this point. That's what it was like for me a lot last year. I wasn't able to climb the steps anymore in my house, or if I did, it was really painful. Uh, Sometimes I could only do it by using my arms, like literally reaching for the banister and pulling myself up, my hip aching and screaming with pain. And sometimes I had to just maneuver my body to consciously and learn how to walk and do something differently, unconsciously trying to figure out how to avoid the pain of using my hip. I was at a loss and trying to decipher the signals of good pain from the bad pain of arthritis. In the old days, I'd have a hard workout and have the good pain of muscles having been used. You know that feeling when it just feels right? It hurts. Well, this new pain was different, and I had to learn all about it. I'm still learning about it. I'd do a light workout and be left unable to move, sometimes in pain for days afterwards. And, I live in New England and the winter was hard. And I had to adjust from being somebody who thrilled at riding my bike and powering hard up the hills with ease, pushing my body to move faster, stronger, harder. And yet this last year has been about coming to grips with age and change. At first, when a PT suggested I had arthritis, I denied it. I thought she was way off. I thought, no, it's not that. And yet x-rays confirmed the diagnosis. And I figured strengthening the muscles would make it all easier. And it did. It was all because I wanted to put off the seemingly inevitable surgery, kind of at that age where it's not, you don't want to do it too soon, too late, all the conflicting, confusing messages around that. Well, anyway, this summer helped a lot. The warmth made a huge difference, and I could walk better. I could climb steps almost as if there wasn't anything wrong. I'd still feel that tightness and the kind of clenching in my hip, but it was so much better. And there was also COVID, which made a huge kind of difference. Instead of going to the office, where I was seeing my clients. I would see my clients at home like this, right, through video. I had my workshops, my courses right here in my home office. For so many of us, COVID changed everything, just like my arthritic hip was also doing. And that's what change does to us. I don't know about you, but when intense change happens, I have set ways of dealing with it. First of all, as I was just saying, I deny it, disown it. I try harder, work harder, trying to make it, push my way through. And yet life was conspiring differently, saying, no, that's not the way this is going to go. These changes in life, COVID, my own hip, were different and requiring me to practice what I preach. And that's where I had to once again put the transformational model that I teach into action. And that model has been clear to me and has helped me through many things. It arises out of the wisdom traditions. Basically, it's about we protest, right? This is what attachment theory teaches us as well. We protest. We're upset at life. We don't like what's happening. We fight against it. We rail against it. We want something different. And yet what we have to keep in mind, what I've had to keep in mind, is that protest is designed. It's life's way to point us in a new direction. But that's what's hard, right? We're so used to this comfortable other way that we don't quite know how to do this new way where life is wanting us to go. And we have to actually spend time uncovering the secrets that are held in that protest. We have to listen in a different way. We have to attune to ourselves in a different way. The kernel of wisdom held in protest is some kind of unmet need. And generally, it's an unmet attachment need, maybe of needing safety or safeness, emotional, psychological, physical safety, reassurance, knowing how to calm ourselves, knowing how to deal with our emotional world, knowing that we have value, that we make a contribution, that we can reach for guidance and mentoring and find our way through life. It's also about letting life roll off our back and dealing with conflict in a whole new way. These are many of the different kind of attachment needs that are there that come up when our protest is so strong and inviting us to pay attention to what's unmet inside of us. Yet opening to our need can stun us with the intensity of longing for what we didn't have, but have always so much wanted. If we can fill up with that longing, we start reaching for more, for whatever the nourishing opposite of that protest is. It's something that calls to us, that beacons us, that says, come on, come on. Well, that's what's been happening to me. I mean, having to put this whole transformational model into practice. And it literally feels like I'm getting a PhD in trust and surrender. I've had to breathe, slow down, sense into the pain of my hip, listen to the direction of my heart, where it's wanting to guide me, and feel the pull that comes from that, and deal with the confusion and disorientation of life was this way, and now it's this way. It's about, at those times, adjusting to the wreckage of how life is changing. In my case, it was adjusting to COVID, adjusting to my hip, adjusting to the craziness of this whole pandemic world, right? And that's where life takes us out of what's known and into the unknown. And this is really life. This is the path of life. How do we go from what we know to what we don't know? It's about how do we change with grace? How do we surf the bell curve of life? How do we let ourselves rise with things, crest and fall? Letting go of the known, releasing ourselves into the unknown, and trusting that there will be something there when change releases us into the next phase of life. Certainly that's what we're doing with COVID, right? We don't know quite what's going to happen. And life is changing, redirecting us and redesigning us. We're like, oh my God, what is going to happen? When is the new normal going to happen? When do we return to normal? We don't even know what that is, right? So how do we deal with this? Life is not just taking me into this PhD of trust and surrender. It's you too. We're all in this together. Okay? How do we trust that there will be something there when change happens and releases us into the next phase of life? So where are you in this process of letting go? What have you had to surrender and let go of? What are the kind of internal experiences that you're having? The external identities that you're having to shift and change, like what's happened with my hip, forcing change upon me, right? What needs are coming up with you as you change with the life as it is, as it's taking you on this new direction? How do you reassure yourself or calm yourself? And even more importantly, what guidance do you trust? How do you listen to yourself? Do you, or are you mostly attuned to outside sources as guidance directing you? How do you attune to yourself and what's coming up? How do you trust? What do you know about trust and surrendering? These are the questions that I'm exploring as I get my own life, my life's work, my PhD in trust and surrender. And there's so much more I can go into all this, and so much more I want to know from you, like to do it together, because we're all in this together at different ways and different steps along the journey. And if you're interested in walking with me on this journey, I'm going to be posting a lot more on Instagram. My name there, as what we call the nomenclatures, at DFAPICS, DFAPICS. And especially as the changes take shape more in my life in the next even 12 days, there's all this new stuff that's happening. And so if you want to know about that, I'm glad to share it with you. And I'll be doing that on Instagram. And this weekend in my newsletter, I'm going to be sharing a practice I've done since the early 80s on surrender, letting go. And I'll be sharing that in my, I'm not sure how I'll do it, but it will be posted in my newsletter. So I want to know how you go through change, how you learn to trust yourself more and more and more. How do you trust life, right? What can we learn together? And how does our combined wisdom shape us and change us and help us go from where we are now to where we're going? So I look forward to being on the journey with you, as we already are, but to hear more from you and to walk with you on that path and know that we're moving through it. We're moving through it. Not always easy, right? It's not always easy, but there is a way through it. I have been seeing that. And I'll share you what I'm learning as we're going through it. Michelle, you're saying surrender and letting go. This resonates so much right now. There's so much, we each are in it in a different way, And it's sometimes small and sometimes really large. Yeah, Michelle is saying it's not easy at all, and it is not. It is not. And yet, if we are practicing, and this is what I've learned over 30, 40 years, is if we're practicing letting go, if we're practicing not grabbing and holding on tight, and we're just learning to breathe into that and letting life move through us, around us, it actually is picking us up and taking us to another new shore of life. But our question is, how do we let go and be with it and learn to trust that we're not being smashed to bits on the other side, but that we're actually being taken to something that's more us, more fully us, that we're being redesigned, recarved out from within. So here's, if you're interested in hanging out with me on Instagram, love to have you there, and we'll go there. Oh, Michelle, thank you. You're saying your words are beautiful and inspirational. Thank you. As I say, a deep breath there. It's totally out of life sharpening its edges on me. And I have to say, I think out of it, one of the things I'm learning is I am being directed and guided to do the work I've always been meant to do, but in some ways been too afraid to do. So something new is emerging, and I can start feeling that and sensing that. And I know that's what's true with you too, as I, as we all trust this process and let it move through us. So I would love to hear from all of you about your practices, how you let go, how you do this, how do you keep yourselves going, how do you reassure yourselves, how do you breathe your way through it, and let's find our way to the other side together. All right, lots of love.